tip.
Good afternoon. It is April 1st, 2025. You're listening to a little column A, little column B, hosted by Will Limnos and co-hosted by Zach Bishop. How are you doing today, buddy?
What is going on, Will? I have some great news. It's happening in the fall. It's a little ways out. It's pretty specific, but I really hope that this sparks change for other college stadiums. Coastal Carolina this fall, for all of their home games, will be offering free concessions. 4 items. Keep it simple. It's going to be hot dogs. It is going to be nachos, popcorn, fountain drinks. No extra price. No limit. You can only go up and get those 4 items, but you go up in the first quarter, you get those, you go back to your seat, you watch some football, awesome, you come back. Second quarter, they're not going to go, hey guy, you were here before. Well, one. Nope. You can go back up, go as many times as you want. They're trying to encourage fans. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're saying, Zach, hold on. This is pretty radical. Do you know what day it is? Yes, Will, I do know what day it is. This news came out yesterday. So, if this is an April Fool's joke, they jumped the gun, and this is some real BS. Because on April Fool's, it's real easy to, have your guard up. But I'm hoping that this is actually real. Like I said, this was news that came out yesterday. Should I be concerned?
Yeah, no, I think you should be concerned. It also is how desperate are you to get people to this that you're willing to give out free food? And if it's going to be free food, I can't imagine being great food, and I'm not bragging about stadium food to begin with, but there is a standard of which, at least for me, and maybe this is just me, of I don't care if it is free. I don't know if I want that. And that might be some of the items they're handing out here. So that might be more of a setup for me, but I don't see, is this what we need to start doing? Is this what people want? Do they need to entice people to go to these sort of games? They need free food?
I think it's an easy solution. Popcorn, what's cost on popcorn and and fountain drinks. Obviously, at higher levels, it adds up. But if you can get a certain percentage of extra fans just to go for that, and then nachos, we're talking probably simple nachos here. Tortilla chips, some of the fake golden yellow cheese, and hot dogs are maybe like the most expensive item. But none of these items are you going to, especially at a stadium, and going, oh, I'm going to get some gourmet food. It's, you know what? Yeah. Like a hot dog, nachos, I want a soda, you give it to the kids, the kids have a better time. It just seems like an easy way to get more people in. And I think that just across the board, there's been less and less thoughts going into, hey, what do the fans want? What would make this better for the fans? And I'm talking the average fans, lower down fans, and not, all right, we're building an arena. How can we squeeze the most out of these people? What are we going to do for all the VIPs, for the corporate people that are sitting in boxes? This is for, hey, I just want to go to a game. I don't want to have to spend extra on food. We're going there at 7. You don't have time before to eat. Afterwards, now it's 10 o'clock at night. I like the idea.
How much are you spending on these tickets to begin with here? We're acting like, all right, they can't afford food because they're paying so much for admission. What is the admission for this?
I don't think a Coastal Carolina football game is that expensive, but I think it's reasonable for some of these other events as they get more expensive that you could give a discount on food.
Would you rather free food, or would you rather be able to bring in your own food? Does that open too much of a can of worms? Because I've seen a lot of places where you're allowed to bring your own. I mean, even the restaurants where they have like a limit on the liquor license in certain towns, and there's places where it's bring your own beer or bring your own booze because they don't have a license to serve it, but you can bring your own and drink it on the premises. Would you rather more that as an option?
I like it as like almost like in a vacuum of, hey, just bring your own food. You want to bring snacks, you want to bring spaghetti in a baggie, awesome, go for it. But the problem is then now more people are bringing bags. It's going to require more time at security. More things can go wrong. Now more time backed up. So I think in a vacuum, yes. In practicality, no.
Yeah, I don't want a longer line. I don't want to deal with that. But
So on top of this story,
do you believe it is?
I think this is true. It came out yesterday. It was one place, but yeah, this brings up April Fool's Day. There is supposedly real news that came out today. There's a lot of garbage that comes out today, and I wonder, I've outgrown April Fool's Day, or is it we are in this internet era where just constantly, every day, people are trying to trick you, whether like to steal your identity, malicious sort of things, or just I guess it's supposed to be funny with the NBA Centel, where you post something about a crazy trade that happened, and every once in a while you'll trick a group of people and it goes viral a little bit. Is it just you kind of constantly have to be on guard? Like what are your thoughts?
News is just news in general is very hard to trust, and a lot of it is an ongoing story. And if you, depending on what part of the story you consume, it may not always make a whole lot of sense. So, like, I think there's a lot of that too, where, and then it's a game of telephone. With you would think with the amount of communication we all have that things would just go a little bit more smoothly, but it's you whisper one thing into someone else's ear, and then the next thing comes out, and it's not exactly the same, and we get farther and farther down from the truth. And I think there's a variety of things of why you can't really trust anything, but I also think that we're just used to it not only on a daily basis, but like today specifically. Like I have multiple topics here. We could go through them where I'm like, is this real or is this not real? Because I think the cool thing I think that goes in today is that there's a cleverness of some of them being slightly believable and some actual like real sources just playing with everyone's mind. It's not just a Facebook comment section that's like, well, who's that guy? Nobody knows who that is. Like, who cares? I don't know.
Is it just publicity? Is it I guess
it's
the
clicks.
jokes like,
It's clicks.
aren't
free
quite
clicks.
hitting where is it just completely it's not even supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be now this guy can show his boss, look how many clicks I got today.
Yeah, this is like the first time that like an envelope was mimicked to look important. It's like emergency. Like
It's like, oh, well, I
urgent
better open that
notice,
one.
like required, like all of that, and it's like that you probably got fooled on that like at least once, and actually panicked and were like, "Whoa, well, I wonder what this is." And then you open it and you realize, well, this is nonsense. So like, I think we're getting closer to that. I don't check my email anymore. What the hell's going on in there? There's nothing but junk in there. If anybody really needs to get a hold of me, they'll figure out another way. But like, it's not through that anymore because I get too much junk mail. It's like, imagine that was your mailbox. It's just stacked every day with all of this.
It would literally be a stack. Well, probably not a stack because there'd be so much. It would just be a pile, a huge pile.
I think the pile would be so big that they would stop delivering mail here, being like, I don't think he needs the more mail. Like he hasn't even got to this. Why am I dropping off more? As if like, oh, one of these days he's gonna get caught
capacity?
up. Yeah, no, that's never gonna happen. But that's just me, and I think I consume social media probably a little bit differently than anyone else, and everyone would like to think that for themselves as well. So, do what you want, but like today's definitely not the day. I'm going to do my best to report everything that I can authentically confirm actually true. But we could have went through an entire list today of like, do you buy this or do you not buy this?
On the flip side of this, if you have actual news today, why are you having today? Especially when you're in control of it. Say you're a company or a sports league where you could have announced it yesterday or nobody knows about it, so you could announce it tomorrow. Like, why are you joining in on this?
I don't see the advantage of like I don't know, social flex of being like, no, we reported real news on April Fools. Like you
like
could,
we're the real news.
Yeah, we could be trusted even on April 1st. Like, I don't think anyone's buying into that, and I don't think that's really building any character for anybody today. And if anything, this is the one that you could have swept under the rug and been like, yeah, that's really not true. Or I don't know. I think you could have stuck something else in this. Do you think this NFL overtime thing is real? Like, is that real news? Like, that's on ESPN.
So I saw the overtime news, and so correct me if I'm wrong here, that in the regular season, both teams will get a chance to possess the ball. And that changed from 15-minute overtime to 10-minute overtime. Wasn't that what was already happening in the playoffs last year? If not in the regular season last year, it was like came out as like breaking news. This is huge. And it just like, one, how many games go to overtime? And this just seems like the whiny Bills from like a couple of years ago. Like, all right, cool. Now both teams get to have the ball in overtime. Just play defense. That's part of the whole game.
The time thing makes sense to me, but to my understanding that they weren't playing by these rules last year in the regular season, and they were in the playoffs. I really don't remember.
And maybe that's why I got a little confused. Regular season versus the playoffs.
But these were the playoff rules. The only real change or difference, I suppose, from the playoff rules, the playoff overtime rules of last year is it's just going to be shorter in the regular season this year. It'll be 10 minutes instead of 15 minutes. So both teams will still get the ball, but you got to act fast. And I kind of like that. This is more or less, what would you say, 2 5-minute possessions on in theory for both teams, and we figure it out from there.
I like I said, like how many games are going into overtime? Like how impactful is this? Like out of all the things that you could change, like to me, this isn't breaking news, big headlines. It's only because it's the NFL and it's April.
Come on, Zach. This is quicker ties. You love ties. It's like soccer.
That is exactly what I don't want. No ties. Play till somebody wins.
We got to get on to the next week. Some of these teams, they got to play in like 3 days because there's Christmas now, and there's going to be 3 Christmas games. And that seems insane. More Christmas. More games.
Let's take a look. I don't think there were any ties last year. The last tie that I'm seeing is December 4th, 2022. Maybe this is an old list. I don't know. This is Pro Football Reference. I would have thought this would have been. I don't know. Maybe they're all messed up by April Fools. I just like this doesn't come up very often.
All right. That's what midseason news should be. It's not football season. The draft's happening in like 2 weeks. That's the real news right now. They snuck all this in, and we're only talking about it because I don't know if it's true or not. Like that's I don't care the news really. There's nothing else to report. Like I think that's good. This makes sense. They said
it has to be true because if it was fake, like you actually make it more salacious and it may make it crazy. I saw a smattering of news today, and none of it really moved the needle for me. On I gotta discuss this with somebody. Here, overtime rules. Oh, they changed. 15 minutes down to 10. Changed the whole world.
Well, nobody's reading anything online and then reporting it again later. I don't think it's the same thing anymore. Like we're pretty good about podcasts and the articles you read. You gotta be really careful on the articles. I don't think print is safe anymore. I think I gotta like hear the whole source and the whole version of it in like a video or audio.
You have to hear it from a few sources. Like, okay, I saw the headline. It was on ESPN. That seems legit. And I was like, okay, I heard it on 2 podcasts and a buddy at work mentioned it. Okay. Now we can lock it in. This is for real.
I mean, I also think we're at a point in time where Twitter could be like re-explained of being like, well, that's what was originally reported. And then it's like, well, I only had 150 characters. And if this is really the whole explanation of it, but in a tweet, it's just this. Like, that's not reporting. You don't need to summarize important, like breaking news. All right, should we get to the Final Four? I mean, it is March. It's April Fool's. I feel like we've already played the real prank on everyone by taking 13 minutes of this podcast and not talking about college basketball.
I think you're right. I think we should have started with the Final Four. That probably would have been smart.
Well, we're down to 4.
We had to let them know. We had to let them know that we were serious and that we were going to prank them.
Is the real prank that it's all chalk? All 1 seeds?
I don't think so. It's only happened once before. I think part of it is that as the tournament has gone along, there have been, by the 1 seeds, there's been some close games. Like there's been some times, I'm specifically thinking of the Purdue-Houston game where that's about to go to overtime and, pretty close to a coin flip. So this wasn't a UConn ×4 the past couple of years of all these teams are coming in, they're up at the half or close, and then it's just these games aren't close. There's been some sweatiness. Florida, I'm still like one of those games you watch, you see what happened, and you're still wondering how did this happen. But as we look at the the advanced data, looking at KenPom, which started I think it was 96, 97, these 4 teams are in the top 10 of all-time teams, or I shouldn't say all-time, since KenPom era, so since 96. So we're looking at almost 25, 30 years. So a good amount of time. And to be in all 4 of these in the top 10, not one of these, all 4. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
I think all 4 teams were built with the KenPom numbers in mind. I think they were designed to do exactly what they have accomplished this year. And I think they're actually kind of diverse ways of going about it if you think about it, but there's more or less a combination of a top 10 defense and a top 10 offense with a bunch of nice 5-star recruits, and you got it all with all these teams here. I think the only weird thing about getting all the 1 seeds, and I guess it's somewhat disappointing of a tournament of 68, is that this is kind of the closest thing you're going to get to manufactured Cinderella stories. And when you kind of get all 1 seeds, it's like, what happened? The factory didn't give me the upset this year. Like it's supposed to be a lock, and it's like it's not perfect. Like this happened in '08, so like it should happen more often. Like if anything, everyone should take a pat on the back of the rankings did a really good job this year. But I'm I'm still going to be really entertained. I think there has been some close games. I think the closest call was actually the first Texas Tech game where they actually come back against Arkansas and Cal just kind of falls apart. That game goes into overtime. That was a great game. The karma of that is that, as you mentioned, the Florida game against Texas Tech later, it's like the flip opposite.
That they have the meltdown.
And now they have the meltdown. So like that's if anything, I think the alarming thing I see with these last second comebacks is that defense with a lead is like a really new coaching thing. Like people have to learn that it's like you don't want to foul the other guy, right? I get that, but it doesn't mean they get to just take whatever shot they wanted. Like the Florida guy was like, all right, it's a little far, but the guy doesn't even have a hand up in my face because it's an open look more or less. So like I didn't like that, and I think more teams should watch more film on that kind of stuff. Have you noticed anything like that where like the late game defense is so soft that the offense is like, well, I'll just do whatever I want then? And then they come back because they stop playing defense, and then they're killing the clock on offense, and all momentum's lost.
I think there there is a concern, and I don't think this is something new and not even new to sports. And I definitely noticed it in the Duke Arizona game where Duke is up comfortably. I think they got it up to 19 into the second half, but then they just let off the gas and they run almost like a prevent, and it's just okay. We're trying to slow things down, use as much of the shot clock as possible, rather than using kind of what got you there and to continue playing it. And yet, there's a balance, and it is tricky because it can just be results, based where, you run the normal offense, the Atlanta, in the Super Bowl, it's like, well, why didn't you guys take more time? It's like, well, we were running the offense we were supposed to. But then if you run the prevent and then that doesn't work, you get into this situation. But I think that you got to keep doing like what got you there, and you just got to keep focused. But these are college kids, and you can't always stay focused, and they're not at the same level as the NBA players. They don't have the experience. They don't have the same talent. So I think that amount of swing on crazy stuff that can happen is what opens it up.
All right, I'm going to give you two options here. You pick the worst or two evils here. Would you rather lose with the team that does the dumb foul or the team that does the lazy prevent defense and they just shoot threes in your face? Which way is worse? What would you rather? What's the worse or loss?
I think the dumb foul is worse.
Is it though? Because something about that is like at least they're still competing because towards the end of the game, the other team is massively desperate. Like they're never going to be more desperate because the game's running out and there's not going to be another chance. Every opportunity is starting to fade, and if you kind of just let them play the most aggressive and you just take a little bit off the gas, I feel like you're just welcoming that opportunity to let them back in. Versus when the foul thing, it's like, all right, that's dumb, but they go to the line, it kills momentum. They're not running what they like to run either. I guess it depends on the flow of the game. If they haven't made a shot all day and you foul them, then you're really just granting them an offense when they've struggled the whole game. But I kind of like your defense being focused and aggressive more than this passive thing where I'm watching the other team just gain momentum play after play after play while you're just watching the clock tick away, praying it'll just end.
I don't think you can do that. You can't just pray and hope that happens, because that is just gonna absolutely burn you. And I mean, that's what we saw happen to first Arkansas versus Texas Tech, and then Texas Tech versus Florida. That game was over. Texas Tech had that game, and I agree with you. Just got too passive and let up. What was it? 3 threes in a row. One of them on an offensive rebound. Walter Clayton Jr. just gets the ball, goes to dribble it out like he's playing half court to like clear it, and then just no one picks up on him, and he just turns around 180 and just bang.
It's nice to know that anything can still happen, and that might be the closest to madness as we're going to get this year. And those were very, very exciting overtime games. So it wasn't the best play I've seen all tournament, though. The best play was the inbound play. You mentioned Houston-Purdue.
Oh, man.
Purdue hits a three with, I don't know, it was like 33 seconds left. They tie it all up, and then Houston runs a play. It ends up falling out of bounds. It's their ball, baseline out of bounds with 2.8 left. And they run this incredible fake where they inbound it, one pass in, and the inbounder just steps right underneath the hoop, gets the ball right back, goes right up with it, is wide open. It looks like a cheat code of like, how did the defense not see that coming? The guy that had the ball, that everybody's waiting to inbound the ball, took their eyes off of that guy and then just steps right underneath the basket that they're trying to protect and just scores and wins. It seems magical to some degree. Is this an excellent play, or is this just a bad defensive adjustment?
I think it was great scouting. I think it was great scouting and great coaching. So you watch it once, and just what you said. How is nobody paying attention to the guy that just inbounds the ball? And then there's like, okay, different teams have different styles. Okay, maybe nobody was guarding the inbounder. Just different defensive schemes. But if you go back and you watch the play, they have all American first team All American. Probably not the most defensive known guy, but still, all right. This guy's on Purdue. Braden Smith, good basketball player, knows what he's doing, smart guy. He starts on the guy passing the ball in. There's all this movement, and he's got the internal clock going. 1,000, 2,000, and what Purdue's scheme is once it got down into the bottom of the clock, especially, he's like the helper. And there was a guy that was not streaking down the lane, but was going on the farther side. And so he leaves to go make sure to prevent that pass from happening, to make sure that guy's not open. Now, of course, this opens this up. But I think that, and Houston has said that Purdue took away their first option, but this was their second option. But I believe it was their second option because they knew as it gets deeper into this, keep an eye out. When you pass the ball in, you don't have to try to make a move. The guy passing the ball in, you can pass it right back to him. He's going to be wide open. It looked like some sort of cheat code. I don't feel like I've really ever seen that, especially in a game-winning situation. I mean, for 2 seconds, especially under your own hoop, a good chance to score. But just being, Houston's not the tippity top of offense. I just thought for sure this is going to overtime. Okay, like lock in. Here we go. This is going to be free basketball, and then it just ends on that. Just wild finish.
All right, a Houdini trick play that I don't think makes sense on X's and O's. Like if this was a video game and you just executed this play,
you'd be so mad.
You would be like, "What? Just my controller froze." Like it just how?
Like what is the defender doing?
How did he sneak by that guy? Like, yeah, you know what? I know we're worried about the other 4 guys that are about to get the ball, but how about the guy with the ball right now? We worry about him. It's really clever coaching, and it worked out great. There's also a scenario where this doesn't work at all, and we go into overtime, and who knows what happens. But I thought that was by far the best play I've seen of the game, of just pure X's and O's, out of bounds stuff. Of this guy drew this up. Like they drew it. Like this is exactly how they drew it up. There's no improv of this at all.
That game ended much better than the Auburn-Michigan game that was going on at the same time. Auburn ends up winning by 13, but there was, into the second half where Michigan was up multiple possessions and Purdue was up, and it was looking like double upsets. There was an amount of time. It wasn't just a blink of an eye. It was okay. So something's happened over here. These ones are in trouble, and they were able to lock in and prevent that from happening. And I think that it should be pointed out. These aren't just blowouts all across the board. These teams are executing down the stretch, and it's impressive.
I do feel like these 4 teams have been in control of most of the games, short of the moments you just mentioned here. I mean, Duke's rolling right now. They're in the driver's seat. That Arizona score, it wasn't even that close. That was just a ton of points being scored, and it looks like a 7-point game, but it's really not. The Alabama game,
I mean, it's just wild. I mean, it's totally different teams, totally different goals, but BYU gives up 113 to Alabama, and then Alabama only is able to put together 65. I mean, if that's not the lowest, that's got to be one of the lowest point totals they've had all year.
That was impressive, Phil. You held a reckless Alabama team to 65, and yeah, I don't know. It's you guys are rolling those. Like I'm saying, Auburn, I thought had a challenging game against Michigan State. We could talk about that. I mean, it's a little sappy to be like, yeah, we had a lot of heart and we really overachieved this year. And it's like, yeah, it's all true, but it doesn't really feel a whole lot better. It feels a little bit better, but it just I couldn't imagine a way where we were going to be able to beat that team in Auburn without something kind of catastrophic happening to them. So I'm
almost did.
I kind of almost did, but it also. That team is so much better than our team. Like I don't even have a way of saying it. Like we could play that team 10 times and there's probably a version of which we do win, but I don't love it, and that's a fluky one. This is kind of the way it should have went, and I think it's an incredible season by Michigan State. Not taking away anything, but that was a ceiling that we weren't going to get past. We weren't going to get past any of these Final Four teams. We weren't anywhere near to that level.
It was a rough way to end, where 24 points in the first half, lowest of the season, going against Auburn. It only ends at 6, but they held you at arm's length the whole time. There was never a chance, even in the second half. There wasn't a chance. In the second half, it never got to, ooh, something might happen. I mean, it was the same way Houston just throttled Tennessee. It was worse in the Houston Tennessee game. I feel like Michigan State had chances where it was, it's 10 and got multiple stops, but just couldn't score at the other end. Where it's, if you could have strung some things along, and now it's 6, or now you put some pressure on, and now Auburn starts pressing a little bit, but it just never got into a situation that Auburn had to be even a little bit nervous because of the pressure Michigan State was putting on.
I'm going to push back a little bit. I thought we were a little bit closer than the Tennessee-Houston game, where
for sure. It wasn't equal. I was just saying that.
No, but
that there was.
If we don't fall down 10 early, we're kind of down 10 the rest of the game. It goes to 7 and 13 and then 7 again, and then it's 11, 10, 12. Like, we were in that whole range the entire second half. So, yeah, we didn't make up any ground, but we didn't give up any more ground. Houston, Tennessee, that just grew and grew and grew and got way, way more out of hand. So, like, I feel like we hung with this team, and we're pretty even with them through the second half. And, yeah, we didn't make a threat into the dent there, but if we don't give up that initial lead and we just lock with them the rest of the game, this is kind of a dead even game.
It's different, yeah. But that was kind of your problem for a good chunk of the year, was the slow starts.
For sure. Yeah. So, like, I'm asking for, if we could just overcome our biggest weakness of slow starts, we would be really good. It's like, yeah, well,
yeah.
If we just made every shot, Zach, I think we would have a chance.
It'd be a lot better. Agreed.
I would just settle for one goddamn shot, but that's just my own frustration. Goddamn, we're the worst shooting team in the world. It's
for sure a sour way, game to end the season. But it was against Auburn, who, what is it, for 75% of the season, everyone's penciled as like, this is the best team. Clearly, Broom's the best player, in the country. And Michigan State started with like no NBA talent. It wasn't looking like a great Izzo, team put together, not ranked in the top 25. So to make it to the Elite 8, I think, like, if I had signed you up for that at the beginning of the year, saying, "Hey, you're gonna lose to Auburn in the Elite 8," that's not a good season for you. I think you sign up for that, right?
I mean, we won the Big Ten. I'm not trying to like hang that banner.
That's true. That is
like,
true too.
I didn't think. You want to talk about?
No, that's a big deal.
You didn't think that was going to happen at the beginning of the year. I didn't, let alone make the tournament. I'm actually more shocked we won the Big Ten, and in some ways more proud of that, because I feel like we've been a sneaky tournament team a bunch of times without winning the Big Ten. Like, we were good in the regular season this year too. That was also very new. Like, it's like, we're not bad in the regular season, but we're not a 2 seed more often than not. I don't think. At least I wouldn't describe our season as that. I think we're more of a very, very threatening underdog in the tournament, and we were kind of a favorite and more or less delivered a favorite until we faced the actual favorites. And I think that's the nicest way to say that about everybody. But, all right, let's do some picks. Who you got in the Final Four here?
Well, just to go back a little bit, last week I made a last minute decision, and I went to the Duke Arizona game, as well as the BYU Alabama game that was down in Newark, and that was a little sweaty towards the end, but had myself a good time. But I will be taking Duke to win the championship down in San Antonio, and I will also be in attendance down there. I am 2 for 2 in Duke games.
That sounds great. Are they going to be playing anyone,
times,
or are you just marking everyone else as losers? Are you even going to take the winner?
They've scored over 100 points, so I'm hoping I can continue that streak. And then on the other side, I think Broom is banged up. He did come back in the game. That was good. It is a full, well, I guess not quite a full week, because the games will be on Saturday night, but Sunday to Saturday, pretty close to a full week. But I mean, it looked like something was wrong with his leg in the replay, but really it was an elbow injury when he came back in. I mean, he did hit a 3, but he was kind of playing with one hand. So I think Florida is no slouch. They're a good team. So I think Florida will beat Auburn.
Yeah, I'll be shocked if it's a different outcome for everything you just said. I think it's Duke and Florida, and I think it's Duke over Florida. I would be shocked of any other outcome. And that's no disrespect to Auburn and Houston. I just, like I said, this is where the true one seeds are. These are the real threats, and Auburn is more or less limping over the last couple of weeks, despite being very dominant through the rest of the year. And I'm starting to think that might have not have been worth it, and they could take it all back. I think they'd rather be more or less where Florida's at right now, or maybe a little bit hotter towards the end of the year and some real momentum than the beginning of the year. If you're Houston, I mean, what's your hope here? I mean, I just don't think this is a good matchup for them. I think that they're going to try to pressure and slow down Duke as much as possible, and they're going to be unfazed by it.
I think Houston is. I mean, just like we just talked about, there's no, no seed that got in here that you look at and go, well, yeah, I don't know, I don't quite know. They're legit. They have been locking teams down all year. According to KenPom, the number one defense in the country. I think it's impressive because they don't nearly have the same size and length that Duke has coming in. So there's extra things that they have to do. I also think that Houston, because of injuries the past few years, have not made it to the same level that they would have. So it's kind of thought that, they have a ceiling, the style they play. But, Duke was able to beat them last year in the Sweet 16, but their point guard goes down and that whole game changes. I don't know if Duke pulls that game out. And I also think that there's got to be, I don't know if it's an advantage so much as this Duke team is all new. There's some Houston guys on this team from last year that remember, hey, we lost this team. Like, all right, we gotta, just maybe a little bit more of a push. But I think that Houston they did not lose very many games this year, even less games. They lost one game in regular time. They lost 3 games in overtime. And do you know what game they lost or what team they lost to in regular time?
Was it Auburn?
It was Auburn in the second game of the year.
Yeah, I don't even think
so.
That
For
counts,
sure, this is
that's still like
for sure. This is
ton.
one game, but they've had an incredible season, and I'm not coming into this game thinking, oh no, we can handle them. Just based off of what happened in the Alabama game, where their guards were a little bit smaller. I'm hoping that we can have a similar scheme, but I just know with these teams where Alabama, they want to run, they want to score. I think that's always better for a team like Duke that has future NBA talent. Just you get up and down, just bigger, stronger, faster. Like the chances of Flagg making more points as the more possessions go up, I think just increases. But if Houston just absolutely squeezes, the time out of this, Duke has a few possessions, you don't score, and all of a sudden, if you're down 8 and you just feel like you're pressing and you're looking at the clock going, we're just running out of time. So I think that's going to be Houston's plan is just keep the ball away from Duke as much as possible. I mean, it's their whole MO the whole year, but even more so. And it's Duke plays fast on offense, but does not necessarily play fast on defense. So we don't create a lot and we don't really create turnovers. So we don't create any sort of chaos or create the speed of the game. So that would be the path that I would see.
They have a little bit of that Michigan State dependency on the defense, though, Houston, where I don't think their half-court offense can go toe-to-toe with Duke's half-court offense. So they're going to be more dependent on you making mistakes and getting those turnovers to relieve their offense because it's the only way they're going to be able to stay in this. So if you just take care of the ball and this game is super slow and you don't turn it over, yeah, you're going to win like 50-40. Like it's going to be one of those ugly games, but I just think you're outsized this team, and I think you got a little bit more at each position than Houston does. And you look like a really, really together team, and it fucking kills me to say that. I hate this team, and I hate that Cooper Flagg is really good and likable and not just like he's very far from a flashy number 1 pick. He's actually like an X's and O's grinded out guy that I think real basketball people love. And it's obnoxious that he's on the most hated college team and and actually good and a good kid. And it goes a long way, but the tankathon for him as we transition to the NBA here is coming. One of these trash teams is going to be taking this guy, and I wish him nothing but the best. But let's play best case scenario here and try to find the best home for Cooper Flagg in the NBA here. There's a couple of teams that have a chance at it. It is still a lottery. Some definitely have a little bit better of a chance here, but putting like
Here, Will, I have
desperation aside, what's the best odds for him going
I
somewhere?
have I have Tankathon open right now. Would you like me to sim the lottery and we'll see, who the odds are for today at this moment, and we can go off of that?
Let's just go down the list and pick a best one, and then you can.
You want to pick the best one first?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So
who do we got up top right now?
I'll read off. Okay, so I'll just kind of give a little bit of a background. So they leveled out the odds. It was more than a few years ago now. So the worst three teams each one only has a 14% chance at getting the number one overall pick. So the best chance to get the overall pick are Utah, Washington, and Charlotte. They each have 14. But if you add that together, that comes up to less than 50%. So if you're flipping a coin or you're betting on this for some crazy reason, the odds is that a team other than these is going to win. So just keep that in mind as we're going through this. So yeah, so the Utah, Washington, Charlotte, those have the worst. And then in order, New Orleans, Philly, Brooklyn, Toronto, San Antonio, Portland, Chicago, and then we're at 3%. So I'm going to keep it. You want to keep it to 10% or better? So that would be Utah, Washington, Charlotte, New Orleans, Philly.
I stopped at Philly. Yeah, I stopped writing things down after Philly because that's 10.5%, 12.5%. That's pretty close to 14%. I don't think. I mean, like obviously I know how numbers work. It's that this is better than that. I get it, but it's at least within the ballpark. And kind of once you drop under 10%, I think it's a little bit more of a really really long shot here. But yeah, going down.
The easiest. I think this one's head and shoulders above is Philly has had actual success in recent memory. These other teams, not so much. Maybe you could say Utah, but even there, I don't know. In the West, yeah, it would be Philly. Even if Embiid isn't able to come back, I think now if you have Flagg there, along with Maxey, legitimate star, you had Jared McCain coming off an injury, but saw some good things, and then have Paul George in the mix, and you could fill around that. I think Cooper is a guy that's going to be able to come in and make a difference immediately. He's not going to lead a team to a championship, but he is going to be able to come in. He is going to be able to help. He's going to be a professional. He's going to take this seriously. He's going to be better than any of the top rookies that went last year. He's going to make actual noise. So the best situation for him, not for me, would be Philly.
I agree with all that. And I think that's true. If you cross off all these other teams, I think Utah certainly has a lot of potential. But I mean, when does Utah actually start building? Like, when does that first building block actually be like, all right, guys, we have a base? It's like we're still in like blueprint mode over there, and there's no actual building. So it's hard to trust that. But like compared to Washington and Charlotte, those are just straight dumpster fires of draft picks that are just all molded together with no leadership and no culture, no nothing. Like it's just a complete disaster. I can at least see Utah being built behind Coop and him being it. I don't see him having a ton of success in Washington or Charlotte. The New Orleans one's interesting because I've heard nonstop Duke people talking about the comparisons to Zion, and were you more excited for Zion when he was getting drafted, or do you think
Who
Cooper's
are
better?
these Duke people?
It was on Rosillo today with Jay Billis.
So one Duke person, one semi-Duke person.
I think I've heard this across most social media is being talked about. Like, is Cooper Flagg the best Duke prospect to come into the NBA?
Oh, that's fair.
And I think it's like, well, when's the last one? It's like, well, it was Zion. It's not that long ago. It's fairly recent. So I think the comparison just comes out of recency, not just,
You over Paulo?
I don't think Paulo had the same hype. You think he had the same hype as Zion?
Oh, not in the same hype, but as a prospect coming out.
Well, I like Paulo. I don't
It's
disagree
it's at least worth in the mix. I'm not arguing for one or the other. Just throwing that out there that Paulo would be more recent.
Look, it's also that it doesn't measure up to success, because if we're doing this all like now today, I think I'd rather have Paulo than Zion. That's a bit of like, I've seen what's behind the curtain, and it's a little unfair to say that, but in terms of the conversation we were having coming into the draft, Zion was a massive one. Coop's kind of a big one, and Paulo was not as big.
I think that part of it was Zion had the dunks. Zion had the crazy dunks, and he'd had them since high school. And I think that just it adds to the hype train that is not necessarily the same level as basketball, like what the tippity top can be.
I think we've had guys that can dunk in the league before. We still have guys in the they don't want to enter a dunk contest, but we never had a guy with that body type. So I think there was a little bit of a question mark behind
Yep.
what is this going to look like in the NBA? Because I've seen what it looks like in college against kids, and it's unstoppable. It hits the air and it's a flying tank. It's not like anything else. So what does that do once the bodies start getting bigger? And it definitely can still be successful. I don't know if he's going to have the health or the ability to stay healthy long term and consistently throughout the season. But if he is healthy, I think he's for sure a high worthy number one draft pick. I don't think that's quite left the building yet. I just don't know if I would invest or count on it on a day to day. And that's really hard for a number one pick versus like Coop, I think is a very trustworthy number one pick. I don't think in like a couple of years we'd be like, well, he's gotten out of shape and we can't just seem to figure this out. He's missing 70% of the games every year. And I don't see that happening. So I'm with you that I think he can turn something around, but this thing's going to be rigged if he goes to Philly, man. This thing's rigged if he ends up going to Philly. Like not only that, I also feel like if you were to say what's the best teammate you could put with Cooper Flagg and Embiid might be the highest guy on like a list of players, I think that's the worst guy you could put with it because Coop's all about ball movement and Embiid is just slow and in the way and wants to get his touches and does nothing to benefit what Cooper Flagg's going to be trying to doing of quick passing and keeping the ball moving and playing with the all the guys around you. I just don't see that as a really good fit. So if we're getting him out of the picture, which that's a whole nother story, and he might already be out of the picture, you might not even have to do anything. So that's just my Philly take of all this. I think it'd be rigged, and I don't think he's going to play well with Embiid if that ever actually happens. But it's probably better than these other homes, right?
Just by far. I mean, the Jazz, I think the Jazz would be good for him because he would be the main guy. I think he'd be above Lauri Markkanen if he stuck around there very, very soon. And so it's like, he's the guy. You let him take like as many shots as needed, let him make all the mistakes he needs to make, and you start building around him. Utah's got a lot of draft capital coming in. It looks like it's all coming from very good teams. They haven't got lucky with some of these other teams, maybe an OKC where you made a trade with a team that was good and got a first round pick and now they're bad and you're able to take advantage of that. But you never know, a few years down the road, something with the Lakers or the Timberwolves, even the Cavs, something could happen. All of a sudden, now you're getting a decent pick that you weren't expecting. But the Wizards and the Hornets have just been bad just for so long. They've done this. They've gotten this is the best guy. They got LaMelo. Washington got a top pick last year. I mean, last year was a down year, but it just doesn't seem like they're able to get out of their own way and figure out what they want to do or how to build a team. So I would think that it'd be pretty disappointing if he went to Washington or Charlotte. I would like to think him there in New Orleans. It just like they're at least a little bit closer. Like maybe they could figure something out. They've sniffed, the playoffs, but I just think in Washington or Charlotte, it would be disappointed because he would be there for his rookie deal. He takes the extension, so he's there for 7-8 years, puts up great stats, and then it like just takes that long before he's able to get on a team and actually, like gets built around him or he gets added to something and is actually able to, be playing into April and May.
Well, maybe he doesn't take the extension. And maybe he says, no, I want to be a free agent. I'm Cooper Flagg.
Has anyone done that?
Not yet. Nobody's stuck in Washington yet and been like, I'm Cooper Flagg. Why the hell am I still stuck in Washington? Like this. Like, do you think he could actually turn around?
I think it's less money.
Do you actually think there's like, I think he's great. All right. I'm not saying this as if he's not going to be good, but like, do you think that he could actually turn around Washington or Charlotte? Because I just don't. I think it's too much of a hole that like, I don't even think Wemby could turn that like the best prospect. I'm saying, I don't think could fix this. This is a long-term fix. And I don't think throwing him in there and by the time they fix it, it's just not in the same timetable of what Cooper Flagg could be in the next 3 years. It's a waste.
I'm trying to think. It's like going back. It's like if LeBron got put on this team, when he was a rookie coming out, And Wemby's a great comparison, but just maybe just one of those things. It's just a long but recent bias of these teams just can't do it.
I think more evidence of that is that they've had a lot of picks over the 10 years. It's said any number of years. It's been forever.
I think that's one of the issues too. And the NBA has tried to make changes, flattening the odds to get less tanking, but these teams have been tanking for a while. So, like, when was the last time you saw, a fun winning Charlotte team or a fun winning Wizards team? It's been a while, so it's hard to kind of dig out of that. Well, these teams are bad.
Well, I'll take it even farther.
Like,
I mean, these teams are so bad. They have so many of these draft picks. Like, even when these draft picks don't pan out for over there, it's not like they go somewhere else and we're like, oh, man, Washington drafted that guy. He didn't really figure it out till he finally got somewhere else. There's not even a list of those guys. They can't even get, like, they're wasting these picks. These like, they're not doing a good job. I don't know whatever ways to say it. Like, it's just, this isn't working. And it just sucks that somebody's got to go to these teams. And I'm trying to, like, not put Cooper there, but someone's going to go there.
Okay, so all of these options, like all the teams that are in the lottery are available. What would be the team that would be the worst for you for Cooper Flagg to go to?
I think it's Charlotte. There is something.
All of them, all the way down.
The worst
for you personally, not the worst for him as a player. I mean, for you, the lottery, comes out. It's the playoffs. It's before a playoff game, and they're going through, and then it goes, and it's just like I don't want Coop going to this team.
All right. So, like, I guess the biggest threat to the Celtics would be if he went to OKC. Like, how much of a nightmare would that be? Of, like, a team that already
he can't go to OKC.
I mean, yeah, the worst situation is Charlotte, and then I'm still gonna hate that because I'm a fan of him. I'm not gonna, like, what would be nice if he went to Dallas. Does that fix anything? Is that even worth talking about? Like, can we this is a long shot bailout of a miracle of a mistake? I mean, they should probably be suspended from draft picks for the next 30 years for what they did trading Luka. But is there any hope at all of, like, an emergency bailout?
They shouldn't be rewarded for this, but it would be nice for their fans. Yes.
Yeah, they didn't do anything. I mean, what did they do wrong?
Yeah, no, yeah, they're like, hey, we were just in the finals, and like, we're gonna be good forever. We have Luka, and just like, all right, just keep figuring this out the same way. The Bucks, at least right now, have always had Giannis. The way that the Nuggets always have Joker. Okay, like there's a firm floor that we are not going below. Like, as long as this guy doesn't get hurt, like, we are going to be here, and we always have the opportunity to jump up.
I mean, if I could handpick and put him on any team, I think he'd be most successful on OKC, just because that's just another OKC type player. It's like, all right, he's going to
No, he can't go to OKC.
I'm just saying, out of any of the teams, all right, if I could just handpick and put him anywhere, I think it's there. Out of the teams that you're giving me options for, I mean, San Antonio would be by far the most successful because I'm attaching him to the greatest number one draft pick of the last whatever years, and Wemby. So, like, that sounds awesome.
I think that one would upset me.
I don't think it would. I think they're likable guys again. It's like, how are you supposed to be enemies with these people? All right,
no, just that they, in the past have been able to bottom out at the right time, and the other times they tanked for it, but this time, Wemby gets hurt, so they're in the lottery where they shouldn't have been in the lottery. They were on the way to being probably a play-in team, and now they slip down, and now they're able to get this awesome guy.
Like, just think of the amount of books they can read together and chess they can play at wild places. Like, this is what the future is in San Antonio.
I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, all right. Well,
that's what Wemby wants to do over in France.
We do have some actual NBA news we got to get to, and we're running out of time here quick. So let's quickly get through the Grizzlies firing their head coach while they are, at the time, 5th in the East. I'm not sure if that's still where they're at. I don't know what you really gain from doing this right now with the playoffs starting basically in 2 weeks, 15 days, something like that. There's no more excuses now if this is the one you were leaning on, and they aren't exactly the sexiest team, I'd say, in the West. They're definitely in contention, so they're not doing everything wrong. But did you actually think they were a true threat this year?
It wasn't that long ago that they were the 2 seed.
Like, but did you buy it though?
Like a few weeks ago, I would say they weren't the scariest of teams up at the top, and for sure OKC is just far and away. I thought whoever they played was going to be, going to be a challenge for them. They were the number 2 seed, a few years ago and got beat as the 2 seed. But I think that is experience that you get that helps you for the next time around. So I thought that they would be able to do something. Firing your coach, you say it takes rid of all the excuses. I think the opposite. This adds a whole bunch of excuses back in. Now the GM could say, "Oh, well, we had to get rid of the coach, and we flamed out in the playoffs, but we just had the new coach for 2 weeks before the playoffs started. This is wild. This not only did they fire the coach, 3 of the assistants. This seems like an Ime Udoka situation. And nothing's come out about this. This is just, I can't imagine this is only basketball related. If this is basketball related, you're at this point, it's too late. It's too late. Ride this out. Ride this out through the through the playoffs. You figure you're gonna flame out. You flame out. You fire them. Immediately. You're first in line for the search. Like now you're closer, but it's not like you're gonna hire a coach before the playoffs end. So you didn't move up your timetable.
Well, you didn't hear
that's the only thing that makes sense is there was something off the court that happened.
No, I'll tell you what makes sense. The portal just opened, all right? He's out. That's the only thing that makes sense.
No, but they're not going to hire it. They're not going to hire anybody until the season ends.
I know, that's why it doesn't make any sense. Here in another sport in college, I'm upset that these coaches kind of have this window to leave and do whatever they want. And here in the NBA, there's nothing preventing anybody from doing it, but there's nothing preventing you from doing this either. You didn't have to do this. This is completely forced by the Grizzlies. And I think they kind of had a first round exit written on them regardless. So whether you think that's, built in excuse now for firing their coach, whether they had him or not, I think that was going to be the result. What I'm curious too of the timing of it though, do you think that they're now first in line for a coach that might be readily available soon? And I think that was what was important to them. I have no idea who that is though. Do you have any conspiracy on what that might be? Because I don't know why else you wouldn't just ride this out, lose in the first round, you fire him after. That's just the pattern that it's gone.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I guess you can talk to people now, but you could have talked to people before. I guess if you didn't want to get leaked out, but I just don't see it because then I feel like more often than not, if you just wait a little bit, somebody that's currently coaching a playoff team gets fired. It's like, well, they had some success. Maybe we just go get that guy.
But does this seem wild though that you're willing to get rid of this guy without even knowing if that guy is going to get fired or counting on that guy getting fired? That hasn't happened yet. You can still have your other guy until then. This was that bad to the point where they couldn't make it 3 more miserable weeks.
This has to be the latest in the season that a coach has been fired, especially from a playoff team.
Yeah, and do you know what else? And if it was this bad, it shouldn't have gone this far. Part of me is if you felt like this was a possibility weeks ago, you should just did it weeks ago. You shouldn't have done it now. Now it looks it looks worse.
So bad.
It looks way worse now. Now it looks like you don't know what you're doing, and that this is a cover up. All right,
it looks very bad.
That's wild. That's crazy. Another wild stat here. Celtics 3-point record. We got a couple guys in contention, but we did get one guy that it's actually already broken it. You think they're all going to get up in this? This is plenty of games left, right?
Yes. Yeah. I think there's 7 games left.
Yeah, no, they're going to get this. They should get this. All right, Derek White already broke it. Jason Tatum is right there, and Peyton Pritchard is just behind Tatum. It's a very impressive. It's impressive numbers. I mean, I know we're shooting the most threes, so it's not shocking, but it is. Once you start adding it up and you start looking at other Celtics, it's this is way more than any other Celtic.
Very cool. And like you said, it's going to get beat by 3 guys this year. And I get, and you say, oh, they shoot a lot of threes. Well, we've been shooting a lot of threes for, like a while now. I think it's impressive. I believe Derek's at 276 now. His entire career on the Spurs, he hit 300. So just the advancements that he made and for sure playing on this team, both the style and the guys around him help. But you can't just put all of it there. The guy is putting in actual effort. It's not even all he does is he stands in the corner and shoots threes. Derek does a lot of stuff. I haven't even brought up his blocking ability in a very long time. So I think it's impressive that it's not just he is just a 3-point specialist and has been able to do this. Just really adds to his ability. On top of Celtics 6-game road win streak. First time a Celtics team has ever done that. I want to chalk that up to just how often do you have a 6-game road streak or road opportunities to do this. But even so, at this point of the year in March, it would have been so easy for us on the road. And you know what? We just don't have it tonight. You go 4-2. We're not going to catch the Cavs. The Knicks aren't going to catch us. We could easily just be sleepwalking through this, get us to the playoffs. We're the defending champs. But I like that we're taking it seriously. Took it to the Grizzlies last night, and it seems to be that we are just peaking at the right time. Al Horford with 26 points last night. The guy's 38. He's going to be 39 in a couple months. Still going out there getting things done.
He looks good. He's in a great rhythm. If you wanted to just take
and he had to play a lot this year.
He did.
Porzingis was out.
He did.
He was hurt. He was sick. Weird stuff. Like, I would have thought this is how Al would look if we had Porzingis the whole year. Luke's getting better, where it's just, you get to sit. I mean, he still gets to sit a lot, but I feel like there's been times in the past where he's had to fill in, and you can kind of tell Al, he's just too old to be playing this many minutes. But he is still he is a crucial member of this team.
He's as locked in as he's ever been. I think he shoots too much, but I don't think he's worth being out there if he's not going to do that. So I want him to continue to do that, and we're not going to live or die with it. But man, when it's going, we are on a whole nother level of great. This guy is going to be going today too. It just really makes us incredibly hard to defend. So I give them a ton of credit, and I think we're in a good spot right now. There are other teams that are in not such a great spot. Milwaukee, whose last couple of seasons are just haunted by Giannis injuries, all of which pretty much occur in the first round matchups back-to-back years. And now they make the move for Dame, and he's going to be out for an undetermined amount of time, I assume the rest of the year, for blood clots, which is not just a standard ankle injury timetable of don't worry, he's going to be back, and it's going to be all right. And this sort of open-endedness is terrifying if I'm Milwaukee. I don't know how we get out of this one, man. We have doubled down and traded what we've traded to just try to have a chance and continue this window open for Giannis. And I feel like it just shut. I just heard it close. I think this was it. I'm not saying Dame isn't going to come back, but I just think if I'm Giannis, I just wasted 4 years. Do you remember Grant Williams and the Celtics, of how fearful this guy was in the playoffs? That could still happen, and it hasn't happened. And it's kind of this sort of stuff that it's not happening for. And I don't know how many more years we could take it like this. This is insane, insanely bad luck.
The past few years was Giannis in the playoffs, and it was not I don't know exactly call them freak injuries, but I mean they were basketball injuries, and it was disappointing. Where this one, I think the blood clot is a little more of a freak injury, where I don't know what if this is posturing. They haven't shut him down. I'm sure there's hope, but I mean any other time I've heard of an athlete with blood clots, it's you're done. I mean maybe not forever, but Wemby, it wasn't. Maybe we'll bring him back later. And so I guess you could maybe make the argument Spurs, knew they weren't going to make the playoffs. So they could just tank, make this easy. But I just don't see in how he's going to come back. You mentioned it of this isn't okay. He broke his hand 4 to 6 weeks, rolled an ankle. All right. 3 weeks, he'll come back. There's a normal process with this. It's, I don't know. I just assume, I'm assuming he's not coming back.
Let me ask you this. Knowing what we know now that Dame is out and that they made the Kuzma trade earlier with getting rid of Chris Middleton, and I'm not saying the Kuzma thing hasn't worked or that it has worked or that we could really even decide all of that right now, but knowing that Dame's out, do you think part of them wishes they had Chris Middleton back now? They kind of got rid of that extra insurance? And I'm not saying he was super insurance either, because he's certainly not the most reliable guy either, but now it's just Kuzma, man, and I think I would still rather have a 50-50 Chris Middleton with some championship experience than whatever Kyle Kuzma's bringing.
I think you just trade, the younger for older. Middleton was having his own health problems, as well as it just, even when he was out there, it just it was less. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and you say the name, it's just, especially as a Celtics fan, it's oh man, yeah. Let's go against Kuzma. I want no part of Middleton, but I think they made the trade for a reason. They had some down years. You had to start making some shakeups. And one good thing here is, all right, you got rid of Middleton. That's over and done with. Got rid of Drew a couple years ago. That's over and done with. Now if you trade Kuzma, I think it's a little easier on the fan base of, hey, like we're trying to make, changes, try to, help make, the team better. Giannis will want to stay, and you don't have to trade a guy that you've become emotionally invested in.
Sure. I just think that they're wasting another year, and I think if they'd had even a 50-50 Middleton right now without Dame, they'd have a better chance. I mean, obviously with Dame, I think they would have still had a good chance with Dame. I still wouldn't cross that off. But now without him, and they have so many other losses at so many other positions that I just don't see. Like, don't worry, Dame's out, and so is going to step up. Like, they don't have that guy to lean on, and I hate that the guy they're going to lean on is Kyle Kuzma. I just wish it was somebody else. All right, I don't really want to talk about the NBA fight because the suspensions are really lame. It was like 2 games and 1 game for everyone else. I'd rather talk.
I'm glad. I'm happy about that.
What do you think? It should have been less or more?
I'm fine with that. Hey, you got to get suspended. It was, it was a legit scuffle. Got close to the crowd, but stayed. I don't think it needed to be more.
I don't think it needed to be more.
Yeah, suspended. 1 game. What was it? One person was 2. Yeah, Isaiah Stewart. 2-game ban. That probably has to do more for historical context than anything else. But this was just like a nice little slap on the wrist. We didn't have to go crazy with it. This is March. Like, come on, let the boys scuffle.
Yeah, that's. I mean, don't let the boys scuffle. I don't even know what they were all mad about. There's the other thing. Like, they took it all out in the wrong play. It was like boiling over from previous shit that was happening, and then it all happened like randomly later. And whatever. All right, let's move on to some other things that are just as random. The Giants have signed Russell Wilson. I feel like the podcast before we talked about them signing Jameis Winston, and they still have Danny DeVito on this team, and they do still have a draft pick of which they might draft a rookie quarterback. What are we doing in the NFL here? Is this fake news? This is the April Fool's right now. This is real news.
Yeah. This came out firmly in March last week. I think that this means DeVito's gone. I think it means they're not going to draft a quarterback. I don't know how Giants fans feel, but it seems like if you have Russell, you think that you're going to win, but he's not. He's not as bad as the Broncos, Russell. It seemed like with the Steelers last year, he was at least competent with the right people around him, but I don't think the Giants have the right people around him. He's not the guy you bring in that says, hey, I'll lift everybody else up. So I think as a Giants fan, kind of expecting this was going to be another tank year. This was going to be the last year for Dayball before he got fired. It's kind of surprising that he's still there. It's like, yeah, let's throw Jameis out there. Like, gonna lose games, but at least sometimes Jameis is gonna have 2 touchdowns of 60 and 62 yards in the first quarter, and it's at least gonna be fun.
It's bad that we've gotten to the point where it's like, we're gonna lose either way, but when we lose with that guy, it sucks. When we lose with this guy, like, yeah, it still sucks, but at least it's like, Jameis is in a good mood, and like he's gonna make you laugh at the post game, and his teammates are gonna love him, and at least you could build something of some joy around that versus I don't think there's any joy in Russell Wilson at all. And that just is a hard person to be joining a team in this sort of situation. I just, what are we hoping for out of all this? Like, these already
have
been on
Malik
3
Neighbors.
teams now.
He's legit. Like, I don't think they really have a lot else. So, but that could be like a fun connection. And maybe Wilson's able to, tap into that, but it just seems like Jameis works for a tanking team, and it just like adds like a little bit of a silver lining of just like, hey, there's gonna be some scoring where Wilson is just gonna take it super seriously, and you're losing, and it's just gonna be less fun for the Giants fans. So good luck with that, Giants fans.
All right, do you think the Yankees torpedo bats will outscore the Giants this year?
Yes, I do by a lot.
I actually think they will too. Have you done some research into these torpedo bats on exactly what it is?
Yes. So to not bore everybody, they can look it up on their own. They're calling them torpedo bats because the shape of them looks a little bit different. There are rules that the bat can only be a certain width. They still confirm within the same width. It just moves a little bit of where the thickness part of it is, and it's for specific batters to make it so the thicker part of the bat is where you are more likely to hit the ball. Got some MIT scientists working on it in the off season, and as a new guy that's watching Drive to Survive and learning about F1 and how they build a new car every year, and like here are the rules, and it's not cheating, but it's just like you're trying to like extract as much out of the rules as possible. It's like some of these other teams should have looked into this. Of hey, here are the rules. Try to be better at them.
It's the same volume, just repositioned to beef up that sweet spot that you want to hit with the bat. I think it's impressive science, and I'm just mad the Yankees figured it out. All right, that's all we got for time for baseball talk today.
Well, just one last thing that I want to mention
got the
is
music
that
playing.
It's not like it's the whole team that's using them. It's only 3 guys on the team. It's getting blown way out of proportion.
Anything else?
Go Duke.
Subscribe. We'll be back.
Well, little column A, little column B.